Damn, I'm getting out-angled by all my monster trucks out here. What's a guy gotta do, you know? What's up, Nitro Gang? This is my vintage 2007 Team Associated MGT 8.0. This is the biggest, the baddest, the one with nearly the largest nitro engine ever to come in a factory ready to run truck, other than the Thunder Tiger EK4. I got this about a year ago. I went on a vintage nitro road trip. Here's a couple pictures from my trip. I ate some Taco Bell. I drove my Mercury Grand Marquis. I had an overall great time. Now, since then, I just did a couple videos on the pickup, the overview of this, the history, some cool videos, guys. If you're into classic nitro RC history, please check them out. You're going to like them, I guarantee it. Now it is time for me to start and get this thing running. Many of you have been asking me, what's an update on this? Well, this is your update. I'm sitting here with the carb from this truck right here in my hand and the cooling head right here in my hand. A little bit of history on this truck. I got this for free a while ago. One viewer reached out to me and said, hey man, you want to have my Team Associated MGT 8.0? It has a couple tuning issues. And I said, of course, man. I went right over there. I got it. And here it is on my table. I've done some maintenance work on it so far. A lot of this stuff I did not get on video. So let me remove the body for you guys and you will see where I am at right now. I was not originally planning on doing a video on the restoration itself because it's a lot of stuff you got to do here on these older trucks. It's not that easy. You know, I don't just put videos out and say, hey, oh, I got it, it runs, boom, there you go. No, there's a lot of work that goes into any older nitro RC. Now, the cooling head right now is not on the car, but I did clean around the motor. I, polished a couple of these things. There's still some dirt on it. The good thing is the motor spins over fairly well. I did remove the back plate. I'm going to show you a couple pictures here, guys. I just cleaned it. I didn't disassemble too much. I just used some WD-40 and boom, there you go. It seems to be running okay. I got some of the dirt out and just put oil on top here. Otherwise, look at that. There is some minor discoloration on top of that piston, but that is nothing. I've ran engines that are way dirtier than this. But of course, as I'm doing my RC investigation, I'm trying to clean the carb. And the carb right here. Take a look at this carb. There is no gasket around the carb where it's supposed to be mated to the motor. Now, I did reference the exploded views for this motor. And check this out. There is supposed to be a gasket right around here where it's supposed to be mated to the motor. Now, just for a little confirmation so you guys know what I'm talking about, this is a carb from a Traxxas. Notice there's a little O-ring, right? This is the O-ring. And it does fit. I've checked it. The Venturis are basically exactly the same size. It's kind of weird. This is a .50 helicopter engine, and this is Traxxas Revo 3.3 carb. And check this out. I could take this gasket and literally just stick it on here. If you look close up, both of these carb openings are exactly the same, but you cannot use the TRX 3.3 carb because the internal mechanism inside, the slide itself, the barrel is much, much narrower than, the .50 helicopter engine needs. The owner did tell me that he was having a hard time getting this thing to idle, to tune well, and it's possibly because there was no gasket around this carb. I might wind up using this, I don't know. I will have to replace the gasket on this. In terms of the glow plug, very easy. I did replace the plug, and I was surprised that a basic .15 size glow plug, which you could use on any Traxxas, on almost any regular motor other than a turbo plug, fit here. I wound up using an old school McCoy MC59. I know some of you vintage RC experts out there know how great the McCoy plugs were, and I in fact did used to run them years ago when I first got into the hobby. They were recommended by my local hobby store. Today, they're nowhere to be found, but the plugs we have available are adequate enough. That's what it is. Looks like I'll have to talk through the chassis of both of these, right? Anyways, The Associated MGT right here has the largest nitro motor ever put into a ready-to-run factory monster truck other than the Thunder Tiger EK4, which I do not have, but I do want to get one of those. Keep in mind, these giant motors are fairly low RPM. They are helicopter motors, and helicopters are not known for the high RPM. This Savage here has the largest nitro motor ever put into a Savage from the factory. Now, I know I said that fact in the previous video, and someone said that the Sen GST 7.7 had a giant nitro motor, and yes, that is true. But my claim only applies to the HPI Savage line of trucks. This is the K5.9, which is a 0.36 size motor. Now, the Team Associated is an 8.0, which is a 0.50. That just basically dwarfs the Savage motor here. Now, keep in mind, the Savage motor is pretty fast. I got this thing up to 46 miles per hour. It does have a 3-speed. Many of you guys that have the Associated MGT 4.6, which is the smaller engine and slightly older model than the 8.0, think to yourselves, well, if you have like a low RPM motor, is this thing slow? Now, apparently, this model does have specifically optimized gear ratios in the transmission to compensate for the lower RPM. So we will be running it, and eventually we will be doing a speed test on it. And this also has reverse. I like this thing, guys. Team Associated's attention to detail, including this primer bulb on the fuel line. Man, you just don't see this kind of stuff anymore. Now, generally HPI, the larger motors do not have primers. Their smaller RCs years ago did, but I'm loving this primer bulb. We're gonna use this later. We're gonna see how well it works. Looking at them both like this, man, I'm liking what I see. This Savage is pretty big, but keep in mind, these are not the original wheels from this Associated. These are called the Proline Big Joes on 40 series wheels. One of the most recognizable and classic wheel designs, I think, from like the monster truck generation. This is when, you know, when you had the largest monster truck there, you were the king, basically. That's all there is to it, you know. This is the heyday of nitro monster truck competition at this time. Damn, I'm getting out-angled by all my monster trucks out here. What's a guy gotta do, you know? This is the 3.3, one of my favorite RCs ever. Keep in mind, back when both of these were out, the extended model of the 3.3, I don't think it was out yet, to be honest with you. You still had like the smaller wheelbase T-maxx, but the 3.3 on the extended chassis is actually quite large. It is one of my favorite RCs to drive. Look at the comparison of the wheels. It is not significantly smaller than the Savage or the MGT. And this is a small block nitro motor. I've had this one up to close to 45 miles an hour and it drives fine. But of course, this is like a run-of-the-mill style RC. These are more, I would say, in today's atmosphere, kind of cult classics and part of history, in my opinion, in the nitro RC hobby. The T-maxx, you could still buy them brand new. This, you cannot get it brand new. Team Associated cannot get it brand new. So these are future collectibles, in my opinion, and I will probably keep them forever. In fact, I'm going to say right now, when I die, I want to make sure I'm buried with all 3 of these, you know, so get an extra casket, I don't care. Let's take a close look at the chassis while everything is accessible. In terms of the starting mechanism, this thing uses a Pro Start, which is kind of like a basic roto starter. You know, there's like a drill start in the back. It goes over here in the back on the back plate. Boom. You have a battery in this thing and it fires right up. We're going to be doing this live later on. In terms of the electronics, everything is stock. I do not like to modify anything only because I like the experience as it was intended by the manufacturer. That is the goal for me. So I already charged the receiver battery. It's right over here. Not the best condition battery, but yeah, this thing does come with a rechargeable pack. Pretty nice. Really convenient placement of the electronics. Car is on. Let's check out the original steering servos and see how good. Okay, well, you know what? That is not that bad. To move the wheels the size of the Proline Big Joes with a factory steering servo, this is quite an achievement. In a previous video, I also asked you guys, are these real shock oil reservoirs? And many of you said no, they're not, they're just decorative. And I have confirmed these are not extra reservoirs for the shock oil. These are just decorative. Kind of interesting because Team Associated is really not known to put anything other than for something that has functional value. Now, look at this primer bulb. It is really nice. I'm going to show you guys this thing does work later. I already have some fuel in the motor because I was doing some off-camera testing. Let's check out the reverse and see how it is operated in this truck. So yeah, it is a 3rd channel auxiliary switch right here. So look at this servo. Yep, there we go. Just like a t-maxx. It's a shaft, it moves in and out, and boom, there you go, you have reverse. You know, we'll see later if it works or not. Here's a good look inside the motor with the coolant head off. It is a little bit discolored here on top of the piston, but that is honestly no big deal at all. What matters is when I spin over the crankshaft, it spins over freely. Now I can feel a good amount of pressure there. I don't want to call it compression because in one video I said, oh, there seems to be a lot of compression with the coolant head off, and then people pointed out, well, you can't have compression if you have no coolant head on the motor, but you could still have pinch, guys. I was referring to pinch. And when I'm spinning this over, I could still feel a good amount of effort. It seems to be okay. I don't notice any giant scoring marks on the cylinder at all, but I do know that the previous owner told me this engine was relatively tough to tune, and after searching a lot of the forums myself, I have confirmed that most people just wind up putting in a different size motor in here, usually 8.32. This one also has front RPM arms, but it looks like the rear arms are just the factory original arms. I tried my best to clean this with like a Brillo pad. It came out okay, you know, I don't need it to be 100% clean, it seems okay. I just wanted to point out, notice how tight this giant tune pipe is to these shocks in the back here. Also, there's a square plate here. It looks like, you know, in case it hits, it makes contact with the motor, it doesn't damage anything. So they had to really wedge this tune pipe in here. This is not the same size pipe as on the 4.6. This is specific to this displacement engine. The reason is, the more displacement you have, the more of an expansion chamber, for example, pipe you need. So they go together. You cannot run a smaller pipe here. That is not what was intended by Team Associated. Pretty cool carry handle here. I like when RCs have this kind of stuff. Stuff is nice. The chassis on this thing honestly could deserve its own episode. The entire Associated MGT line of trucks is known to have what is called an extruded aluminum chassis. This thing is extruded, it is bent in whatever way they need it to be bent in order to be extremely rigid. It goes from the front of the chassis, you could tell all the way in the front here, all the way to the back. Very cool design. There's a lot of literature online if you guys want to find out the benefits of an extruded aluminum chassis for RC. I'm sure you could dig into that, but I'm not going to get into that because this video is never going to end. Okay guys, I'm going to do a live start. I'm going to put a little fuel in the tank. I'm going to prime it. I don't know why a lot of RCs don't come with these primer bulbs. They seem pretty fantastic, to be honest with you. This thing's got some crazy compression. Now that's what you call a 2-speed, baby. See you later.